What Remains of Edith Finch is an experience that is captivating from beginning to end. With a wide range of different gameplay elements and art styles present throughout, there are plenty of surprises here that will leave an everlasting impression on you. Hi, I'm Scotty and welcome back to Rating and Review, the show where I take one of your favourite games and explore all of the different elements within it to ultimately give it a final rating at the end. This will then go on the very expensive looking Excel leaderboard. Firstly, we're looking at the story. Spoilers ahead.
I'm just going to start at the beginning, with the house.
Right from the start, you begin Edith's journey to explore the house and understand her intentions of being there. That being to explore how all of her deceased relatives had died.
I remember asking Mom once about where Walter had gone.
The story is very simple to understand, yet extremely enticing the entire way through. From when you enter the house for the first time, all the way to the twist ending, I was invested in what story this game had to tell. With each mural that Edith approaches in the house, I found myself continuously looking forward to what the particular family member's story was. Most of the deaths were depressing to watch and learn, yet they had a huge impact on me emotionally.
Maybe if the wind hadn't picked up, then maybe he'd still be here. But I doubt it.
Each of the tragedies that are told through narration by either that character that died or an outside source was a great added touch. For example, Molly narrating how she felt whilst hallucinating.
Now I was a monster, and I smelled people everywhere.
And a therapist narrating a letter addressed to Lewis's family was extremely impactful, and without it, the sequences would have felt empty.
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Lewis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation.
Edith narrates the entire way through. This was essential in helping build the history of the Finch family and offered insight to her own thoughts and history that really felt interesting to learn.
When Edie told people Sven was killed by a dragon, she could also have said he was building a dragon-shaped slide that collapsed. She could have.
The twist ending, which revealed that Edith actually passed away and her son is the last remaining Finch, is something that I found to be a nice wrap-up to the story. Although I understand why some players would find it slightly underwhelming, as it never really answered as to why the Finches died by the so-called curse.
Dear Edith, there's so many stories I wish I could tell you, but there's only time for one.
However, I believe that this was intentional by the developers, as it leaves it up to the imagination of the player. Was it a curse, or was it all just superstition?
If there's a pattern in all these stories, I think it's that none of us has gotten very far.
As I said before, I always looked forward to what story would be told next, but not only because of the story itself, but also because of the gameplay. Each scenario you play is uniquely different and offers a range of different gameplay elements. For example, when you're looking into Sam's death, you take control of a camera and take pictures.
I will never forget this weekend, Dad.
Compared to Gregory's death, where you take control of a frog in a bathtub. Not only did these distinctions between the levels keep the game feeling fresh, but it also helped massively build the story behind what happened to them. It's almost as if you are playing as the tragedy itself sometimes. My personal favourite levels to play were Molly, where you play as different animals that she is hallucinating.
And suddenly, I was an owl.
Barbara, where her story is led out like a comic with parts that you have to play.
And as she wound the key, she listened for Rick, but the house was silent.
And Lewis, which was a masterpiece, where you're essentially playing two games at once, one taking place in his mind and one in real life.
I worried about him then, daydreaming at the cannery.
None of the levels were bad at all, but Milton's and Odin's were incredibly short and only involve you flicking through an object. A nice added feature that I loved was the words appearing on your screen of what Edith is narrating. Most times it wouldn't simply appear on screen, but it would also take part in the world building, or help you on your way. The controls were very simple, but sometimes it can be a little difficult to understand what you have to do when faced with an object that you have to interact with, and I'd often find myself just pushing my joysticks in all different directions. Atmosphere plays a huge part in narrative-driven games, and what Remains of Edith Finch utilises it excellently. The area surrounding the house and the house itself truly feel isolated and abandoned, which greatly helps the feeling that death has plagued the house. This is shown by the leftover takeaway boxes on the dinner table,
The table was still a wreck from the night we left.
or the doors that have been sealed shut for unknown reasons.
Mom always told me to stay out of the basement, so I wasn't too surprised when the key didn't fit.
Even the windy weather against the trees that you see right at the start of the game help build an eerie tone right from the jump. Also, the murals that you see just before diving into the story of one of the Finch's deaths are great for helping build the story of the character even further with little items and objects that relate to them.
I got the sense Edie had spent a lot of time here, before my mom sealed the doors.
HowLongToBeat.com states that the game should take around 2 hours to complete. The short length wasn't too much of a problem for me because the story is so impactful that you're not really left wanting more than you are given.
And the rest I think you know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
Also, if the game was any longer, perhaps by 4 or 5 hours, then I would worry that it would have become too repetitive and gameplay elements would just be reused. After completing the game, you also have the option to go back and replay any of the levels that you want. This is great as I found that a couple of playthroughs really enhanced the enjoyment I got out of them. With an engaging story with even more engaging gameplay that offers a wide range of different gameplay elements that keeps the game feeling innovative, What Remains of Edith Finch is an experience that absolutely nobody should miss out on. From the atmosphere that encompasses the feeling of isolation all the way to getting to play as a cat climbing a tree to catch a bird, there is no doubt that anyone would finish this game feeling underwhelmed. And for all of these reasons, I'm giving the game a 9 out of 10. This means that it currently places second on the leaderboard, just behind Spider-Man and knocking down Little Nightmares by 1. Thank you if you made it all the way to the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, then please feel free to give it a like and consider subscribing for all future rating and review videos. As always, I am Scotty, goodbye.